Hamas and Israel have agreed to a ceasefire set to start on Sunday. The deal includes humanitarian aid to Gaza, Israel's gradual withdrawal, the release of Israeli captives, and a Palestinian prisoner release. As Palestinians in Gaza hope to leave 15 months of devastation behind, can this agreement hold, or is it another fragile promise? The war began when Hamas-led militant groups launched a surprise attack on Israel on October 7, 2023, which involved a rocket barrage and a few thousand militants breaching the Gaza-Israel barrier, attacking Israeli civilian communities and military bases. During this attack, 1,195 Israelis and foreign nationals were killed, including 815 civilians, and 251 were taken captive. Hamas said its attack was in response to Israel's policies, including its blockade of Gaza, actions at the Al-Aqsa Mosque, and expansion of settlements and occupation. After clearing militants from its territory, Israel launched one of the most destructive bombing campaigns in modern history and invaded Gaza on 27 October, with the stated objectives of destroying Hamas and freeing hostages. Since the start of the Israeli offensive, over 46,000 Palestinians in Gaza have been reported killed, over half of them women and children, with thousands more dead under the rubble. The Lancet has estimated a total figure of 70,000 direct deaths due to traumatic injuries. More than 100,000 Palestinians have also been injured, resulting in the world's highest rate of child amputees. The deal, which is expected to be implemented in 3 phases starting on Sunday, was approved by the Hamas group on Wednesday. The deal, mediated by Qatar, Egypt, and the United States, also talks about post-war reconstruction efforts in the Palestinian enclave, where more than 60% of buildings have been destroyed and damaged in the non-stop Israeli bombardment since October 7, 2023. The first stage would last 6 weeks and see a complete ceasefire, U.S. President Joe Biden said as he confirmed a deal had been reached on Wednesday. Hostages in Gaza and Palestinian prisoners in Israel would be freed, and Gazans who have been displaced allowed to start returning home. Several hostages held by Hamas, including women, the elderly, and the sick, would be released in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners, Biden said. 3 hostages would be released straight away. A Palestinian official previously told the BBC, with the rest of the exchange taking place over 6 weeks. During this stage, Israeli troops would pull out of all populated areas of Gaza, Biden said, while the Palestinians could also return to their neighborhoods in all the areas of Gaza. Almost all of Gaza's 2.3 million people have had to leave their homes as Israel has carried out continuous strikes across the territory and issued mass evacuation orders for large residential areas. There would also be a surge in humanitarian aid deliveries to Gaza, with hundreds of lorries allowed in each day. Stage 2 would be a permanent end to the war, according to Biden. The remaining living hostages, including men, would be released in return for more Palestinian prisoners. Of the 1,000 Palestinian prisoners Israel is thought to have agreed to release overall, about 190 are serving sentences of 15 years or more. An Israeli official previously told the BBC that those convicted of murder would not be released into the occupied West Bank. The third and final stage would involve the reconstruction of Gaza, something which could take years, and the return of any remaining hostages' bodies. The conflict between Israel and the Palestinian people is one of the longest-running and most violent disputes in the world. Its origins go back more than a century. The consequences of the historic dispute over issues including land, borders, and rights are still being felt, and include the latest war between Israel and Hamas in Gaza. Britain took control of the area known as Palestine in World War I, following the defeat of the Ottoman Empire, which had ruled that part of the Middle East. Tensions between the Jewish and Arab populations deepened when the UK agreed in principle to the establishment of a national home in Palestine for Jewish people. Between the 1920s and 1940s, the number of Jews arriving grew, with many fleeing persecution in Europe. The murder of 6 million Jews during the Holocaust gave added urgency to demands for a haven. The Jewish population reached 630,000, just over 30% of the population. In 1947, against a backdrop of growing violence between Jews and Arabs and British rule, the United Nations, UN, voted for Palestine to be split into separate Jewish and Arab states. Jerusalem would become an international city. Britain abstained. It decided to withdraw and hand the problem to the UN at the end of 14 May 1948. Jewish leader in Palestine, David Ben-Gurion, declared an independent state known as Israel hours before British rule ended. Israel was recognized by the UN the following year.